Let's try to find the domain of this problem, which is number 2 from homework 2.6, but I'm only going to talk about the division part. So again, similar idea, if you want to have two functions evaluated, you want to make sure both of them are defined. So it's natural for you to find the domain of f and g first. But also you want to make sure your denominator is not supposed to be 0. So you are going to first translate this problem into 3 sub-questions and solve one of them at a time. The first sub-question, you see this structure here. Clearly, there's no denominator, there's only square root. So whatever is underneath the square root has to be greater than or equal to 0. If you said it's equal to 0 only, you won't get credit in the test, okay? So along the same line of thinking, you have x plus 5, you have 5 minus x to be greater than or equal to 0, because similar to the previous structure, it's also something underneath the denominator. The last thing you want to make sure is because your g function is placed as a denominator, so you want to find the g function is not supposed to be 0. So those are corresponding to my item 1, 2, 3 up here. So once you solve them, you want to find the common region. So some place where all 3 of those conditions are satisfied, that's going to be your final answer. So solving those, Part 1 and Part 2 are essentially something you learned from Section 1.1, solving inequality. If you have difficulty solving those, please go back, re-watch the class video, practice on those problems. This is going to be something we're going to use repeatedly throughout the semester and again be tested in calculus. The second part, solve inequality, you also want to make sure you can do that, and you need to use sign chart, make sure that part also makes sense to you, so we can find our answer. The last problem, if you don't want it to be 0, you are telling me x plus 5 and 5 minus x is not 0, hence x is not 5, x is not negative 5. So what you are looking for is something to make sure all 3 conditions are satisfied. You can look at it and think about it in your head, or you can try to plot the graph. The first one said you have to be 2 or on the right side of 2. The second condition said you want to stay in between negative 5 and positive 5, including the 2 boundary points. So this is what you have. The third condition said you can be anything, but you cannot be this one, and you cannot be that one. So if you look at the region, the only thing that's covered by red, and maybe I should have used green. Okay, so the only thing that's being covered by pink, by green, and by blue is supposed to be this region, hence that's your final answer. So what you end up with is goes from 2, which include 2, up to 5, but you don't include 5. So that's supposed to be our final answer. So go back to look at your version of the problem, see if you can solve it accordingly. If the problem had been modified and you were asked to find the domain of f plus or minus g or f times g, since there's no denominator newly introduced, all you need to do is to make sure condition number 1 and condition number 2 you had above were both satisfied. So for this particular function, the domain of my f plus minus or f times g is supposed to be bounded by 2 from below and bounded by 5 from above. Okay, hope this helps.